Today's episode, you guys, is brought to you by Perfect Storm Real Estate Specific Software. It's the website I use in my business. I'm actually a partial owner within the company that's been able to give my input to help create a piece of software that is uber effective at lead generation in our real estate businesses. That website, www.perfectstormnow.com. Go check that out. It's amazing, epic front-end lead generation site that's extremely affordable for real estate agents out there. Also, today's episode is brought to you by our 90-day mastery bootcamp. If you're in the real estate industry, if you're wanting to take your business to the next level, this is a gnarly, crazy experience. We go through for 90 days straight. There's there is 13 total sessions that we go through. Each weekly session is about 2 to 3 hours long every single week. Plus, you have daily access to me going through the experience through the group. So to check out more about that program, we roll those out about every 90 days. We stagger them once in a while, but we do about 3 or 4 of those every single year. We have one starting September 28th, so next Monday, which is the last one in 2015. So if you want to spend the next 90 days with me, about 40 hours of just crazy epic content helping your business take it to the next level, go to www.90daymastery.com. That's our sales page. You can see testimonials, learn more about the product, and register and sign up right there. If you are signing up, make sure to use the promo code LiveMastery, all caps, all together, all one word, LiveMastery. It saves you $500. It makes that whole entire 90-day coaching experience only $997 for you guys. So, all right, let's jump on in. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview, where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs, top realtors, top health and fitness professionals, and just straight up top badasses that out there dominating their space. So today I got a great friend of mine on the call today. Really excited to have this guest on today. This is a guy that is new to the real estate business, not new to entrepreneurship, but new to the real estate business, and in his first year has done like 12 times the amount of business that the average real estate agent does that exists out there. So this guy's doing some massive things. So really stoked and honored to have my good friend on the show today, Arne Johansson. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is epic, dude, man. I mean, you're out there doing some massive things, and we're really excited to kind of share your story with our audience and what you're doing to create this level of success that you've done. I mean, this is your second year in the business.
Yep.
You did 85 deals your first year?
Yeah, I had 84 closed and pending my first year. This year is my second year. I think we just sold 2 houses, so I think we're at about like 67, 68. But I'm doing it off less. I'm more efficient. My skills have improved. So, I'm meeting with less people, but I'm converting more of them. So that's probably, so I'll probably sell about the same amount as I did last year, but my skills have improved. And so that's was my number one goal this year, was to, increase your skill level. Who cares about how many transactions you have? You want to, have a profitable business too. You want to be efficient. So yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. So before we kind of jump into what you did to get those 84 deals and what you're doing now and how you're really perfecting your business and making sure that you're that much more profitable, taking the next level, let's kind of rewind the clocks, dude, because I know that you owned a business. You were an entrepreneur. You've been an entrepreneur for some time. You owned a business before you got into here. What got you into entrepreneurship? And let's just rewind the clocks, like from high school, college on to kind of what your journey's been.
Yeah, that's a good question. What got me into entrepreneurship? Well, my dad was an entrepreneur. He built houses, when I was little. So I was around real estate. I was around him being on job sites. I was, I probably watched him and I saw like the freedom that he had, when he built houses for a while, but then he was a remodeler too. He'd remodel houses or do, contracting work. And I always liked that, he kind of had a cool life, I thought, and like he was my dad, obviously. So I was growing up, admiring my dad. So I think that's probably planted the seed. And then when I went to college, I started reading, I wanted to go to law school. I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. Because lawyers make a lot of money, and I liked history a lot. I liked, studying history. I liked studying political science and things like that for a while at that time. So I was like, being a lawyer would be cool. But I started getting interested in entrepreneurship. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that like totally changed my life. Because like the first time you read that book, like any entrepreneur, it's like one of the most popular, entrepreneurial books out there. It's totally changes your life, and it opens up your eyes to like that whole world, and um, the different aspects, the investor and the self-employed, and the E, the B, and the C, and all that stuff, and that got me into more books, and I just started reading about it, and I just was like, yeah, I want to run my own business. That's what I want to do. And I've always been into real estate, ever since I was a little kid, being around my dad. And so um, that was how I got into entrepreneurship. Um, and then when I got out of college, well, one thing that I learned from those books was that if if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to learn how to sell. So that's like the number one skill, right? Because if you can't sell anything, then you're not in business. So I said, well, I got to learn how to sell. So I took a job. God, it's so funny even now that I think about it. I took a job selling suits, custom suits to like business guys like around the city. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to sell suits to business guys, like executives, like CEOs and like entrepreneurs, and like, because that's how they sold it, right? And I was like young. I was like 24, 25, right out of college. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be sweet. I'm going to, drive around. I'm going to have really nice suits, and I'm going to get like half off on that. And it was a really tough job. I did it for a year. It was 100% commission. It was cold calling. It was like going business to business, like leaving your card. And, I didn't know anything else really, because I just had, I worked with my dad sanding floors, because he was a floor sander eventually. He got out of selling houses or building houses, and he started his own hardwood floor refinishing business. So I worked with him in the summers, and I always had a job. You know, I was like, I delivered papers with him when I was like, in fourth grade, and I worked at McDonald's when I was like 14, and had all those jobs, and so I've always been a worker. Um, but yeah, I mean, so I sold suits for a while, and I learned a lot about how difficult it is to sell. And then after doing that for a year, I was like, man, my dad's got it good. He doesn't need to wear a suit. He doesn't need to dress up. He just goes to the job site. Nobody bothers him. He just sands floors. He makes them beautiful. He's learned, you're in construction. I wanted to learn about construction. I want to be in real estate more. And so, I quit. I was like, I want to learn how to do this. So I started working with my dad, and then I worked with him for a year, and he taught me everything basically that I could learn in a year, and I was like, well, now I can start my own thing. So, I started my own business after a year, sanding floors. And I was lucky because my dad, I think your dad sold real estate too. And, when your dad's there, you always got somebody to bounce something off of. So I was able to learn at a quicker rate, because my dad was basically my coach and my mentor, and I could always ask him questions. And so, yeah, that was it. And then, yeah, then I owned a hardwood floor refinishing company for 7 years. Um, and I just sanded a ton of hardwood floors for 7 years.
Yeah, and so you told me you transitioned from that into real estate. What was it? Just the monotonous of it. I mean, what made you want to leave that? Something that you built for 7 years and jump into this new venture.
Yeah. So, you know, sanding floors was a really good business, and I learned a ton. Running a business is I think, I mean, it's you learn so much about business, and kids that go to school, and I was in business school. I went to college, and it's like, well, really, what do you learn about business when you're in a class? You got to do it. You have to do it. So I think what got me out of it was I was just sick of sanding floors. I was sick of having dust in my nostrils. I was sick of smelling polyurethane. You know, I was sick of just like being on my knees and being on my back and just getting done at the end of the day and just being super sore. And During that time, I had my real estate license. I got my real estate license just a couple years after college, but I never really thought you could do it for a living. I didn't know any real estate agents that were like killing it. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think like I could earn a living. And floor sanding was a good business for me. I was making money. It was quick money. I'd do a job. I'd get done in 2 days, get paid right away. I could get to the job site at 7 a.m. and I'd be done by like 12 or 1. And that would be it. I'd be done for the day. I'd have the rest of the day. And why leave it? And I was learning a lot about construction. It was really fun for a while. And then when the market crashed in like 2009, 2010, that was when I bought my first investment property. Um, and I was able to get a construction loan. So I just like went gangbusters. I was like buying whatever I could. I had saved some money from my floor sanding business, so I could use that for the down payment. And then, for a couple years there, I'd always have like 2 or 3 houses going, and that was a huge learning experience because, when you're flipping a house, you got like 12 different contractors in there. You got the plumber, the electrician, the carpet guy, the paint guy, all those guys. You got to pay them. You got to make sure they're doing their job. You're putting together a product too. So that experience, like, so that was kind of a business in itself. Basically, it was because I was flipping houses. I was buying at, X price, selling, putting in, Y amount of money, and then Z would be the profit or the loss, So I had that going on. And then I had my floor sanding business. And then real estate, I was really just using that to buy my properties. But every once in a while, I would sell properties to my friends, if they needed something. Um, and then like, yeah, let's see, I think, well, 2 years ago, um, I met my girlfriend, and I was just like, we went to Paris. I kind of was just like, what do you want to do? Arnie, what do you want to do in your life? Like, what is it that you want to do? Because, like, you're 30 years old. If you're going to build a career, like, now is the time. It's either like you're going to do this or you're going to do something else. So, like, pick what you want and just, like, go all in. And real estate was, like, the number one thing. And, I always wanted to sell it. I always wanted to own my own brokerage. So I did it. I just got my broker's license, and like 4 or 5 months later, I just shut down my sanding business basically, which in retrospect, it probably wasn't like the most smart thing, because if I figured out a way to, leverage that or, have somebody else do it, and I still get calls to this day for that. So it's possible for me to do that still if I want to, in some capacity. But at the time, I just wanted to have a singular focus. I didn't want to think about anything else. So I just kind of just shut that down and started selling. Bought some zip codes on like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and just started going at it like 20 months ago.
Yeah, dude. So, okay, so you get in the business, man. You do 84 transactions your first year. So, just for our listener base that maybe aren't in the real estate industry, your average real estate agent right now does about 4 to 6 transactions a year. And 90% of realtors fail in the first 3 years, dude. So not only did you not, of course, not fail, but you succeeded on a massive level that is almost unheard of, dude. Like you really don't hear of. There's probably you and maybe a few other guys that I've ever heard that's done that kind of volume. Your first year in the business, full time in the business. So okay, you go out and buy zip codes. You're doing this, but like, what did you do, dude? Like, I mean, let's just kind of walk through this. I mean, what was your transition to maybe your first deal or two, and how just roll with it.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. I basically, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I thought, oh, I know a ton about real estate. I've flipped 18 houses. I've ran my own flooring business. I've been in construction. I know what I'm doing. Like, and I didn't know anything because selling real estate for a buyer or a seller has nothing to do with floor sanding. It has nothing to do with flipping a house. Like, you need to know how to ask the right questions. You need to, you know, there's a sales process, right? And it was a new sales process to me. So I kind of thought I was just gonna, I mean, yes, I did do 84 deals and I did do that, and that was a lot. It was extremely difficult. Like, I don't want anybody. I worked every single day. I didn't take one day off. I remember the days that I took off because I only like I didn't take any days off. I remember it was January like 8th. My girlfriend and I like went up north and we're like this is the first time we like took a day off. Um so I worked all day every day that year. My first but yeah, I just bought some zip codes and I just started getting them to my email, I think, the leads would come in and I was so nervous on the phone. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, my zip codes were all over the metro. I live in Minneapolis, and I was buying zip codes in like all these different, Apple Valley and Chanhassen, and like 2 hours away in Duluth. I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy the whole state. Like I'm gonna build this brokerage. It's gonna be like around the whole state, because I saw this Zillow agent down in DC who had this huge brokerage, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. That was actually what inspired me because I saw I heard his story on a webinar. I was like, I'm gonna do that same thing. Um, but yeah, so the leads started coming in, and I didn't really know what to do, and I was just rolling with it. I didn't have a CRM. I didn't have any drip systems. I didn't have any scripts. I was my own brokerage too, so like I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a broker. I was with Keller Williams, but like I wanted to start my own thing, so I didn't really have support. I didn't have an office. I didn't have a transaction coordinator. I had no website. Thinking back on this, it's actually amazing that happened. Um, and yeah, man, I just kind of winged it. I was just like, but at the end of the day, I was confident because of my previous experience, being in construction and owning houses. And, when you buy your own house, like you're going to look at the HUD. You're going to look, you're going to do your due diligence when it's your house and it's your money. And I was doing that, a lot when I was flipping, so I was very used to that. So I felt like I was way more experienced than the average realtor who maybe have only sold 4 houses. Well, I owned 18 of my own, and so that confidence gave me enough to at least go out there at that massive level, even though I had no skills, no fundamentals. Um, and yeah, I think I remember like the first deal I got, dude, honestly, my first deal was like $30,000. It was like a $30,000 sale. But I was like super happy because I made a sale. And yeah, man, um from there I started to put it together a little bit. I was like, okay, well, I need if this lead comes in, I need to be able to get back to it really quick, so I got like 5 Street, I got a CRM, and like it texts them right away or it send them an email right away. And I somehow convinced my girlfriend to quit her job and become my transaction coordinator like 2 months later, um, which was awesome because she's like the best transaction coordinator in the whole world. Um, so, um, yeah, so that was kind of like the first couple months. Had no idea what was going on. I knew I needed a coach though. Like I quickly realized that. I was like, I need somebody who's done this. I
Right.
need somebody who's done this before because it's just going to shorten my learning curve. So I got a coach pretty quickly, and I was like, I'm not going to say the name of the coaching organization, but I was like, whatever you put me with, like, make sure it's like somebody who can handle me because like I'm an intense dude, like I'm going for the gold here. Like I'm not just like trying to sell 12 houses or 10 houses or 20 houses. Like I'm trying to take over the whole state, So they actually paired me up with a really, really great coach, Dan Grebe. He's an agent in Florida, and he's got a team, and they sell like, 2 or 3, 400 houses a year. And it was like perfect. It was like the guy I needed to, it was just like, do this, and he's like, I don't want to hear that whining. And, it was like exactly kind of like what I needed on the background, to like keep me on track. Because he's just like, dude, you're like a train fault. Like you're going like you're like going 90 miles an hour on the track right now, and like you're like I'm trying to keep you on the track. That's like what you are. You're like a train, like flying all over the place. So um, from there, I started to learn it, and we started to learn the process, and um, yeah, I mean, and then we kind of just, it doesn't seem like that long ago. I guess we just kind of started developing a system. We started developing a system. And so, yeah, my first lead basically, all my leads at the beginning were just like, I had no idea what I was doing until now. Now, we have something that is good. We have a good system.
So did you, I mean, was it all online lead gen, or did you kind of go back to your roots from your suit selling days, dude, where you're pounding the pavement, you're door knocking? I mean, did you incorporate a lot of that, getting face to face, getting belly to belly? Did you get out there and doing that, bringing that hustle in?
I wish I could. A lot of the stuff like in your coaching, if I would have done that from the beginning, I would have sold 120, 130 houses, or I wouldn't even needed all that Zillow spend. No. The short answer is no. I literally didn't do any open houses. Um, I didn't do any stuff on. I didn't do. I mean, like I said, I didn't even have a website. I wasn't even on Instagram. Like I wasn't on anything. I kind of just went all in on Zillow, and Trulia and Realtor.com and that type of stuff. So yeah, man, I didn't do any of that.
So when you're doing that, because a lot of people like online lead gen, right? Because it's I don't want to say nothing in this business is easy, but it's easier than picking up that phone and getting yelled at by a stranger, right? So a lot of people like the idea of online lead generation, leads coming to them, but the conversion ratios are really low for most people.
Hmm.
It's like, what did you do to become successful to be able to convert so many of those? Because you're getting these leads,
Hmm.
but we find out leads aren't the problem. Our inability to convert the leads to appointments are the problem.
Hmm.
So, what are maybe some recommendations? What were some of the stuff that you were doing to be able to convert those right out of the gate?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and my conversion rate was absolutely horrible at the beginning, and I didn't know because I had no idea, and I was in like, we were out of our my house at the beginning, and I was just it was just Megan and I, and so I didn't really know like what to do right or how if I was doing well or not, but I was getting a ton of leads because I bought a ton of zip codes. Um, so I think at the beginning it was just kind of just pure numbers. But what I learned was one, you got to get back to them quickly for sure, and I think everybody knows that now. Somebody's online, get back to them right away. So as soon as that text message come in, I would hit them back up. Hey, got your message about 123 Main Street. Do you want to go see that? So that's easily the biggest thing. You got to get to them quickly. Um, so last year, if we're talking about last year, that would be the one thing that was the biggest influencer on converting leads. And then honestly, man, I don't even think I was that good at converting. I just had a lot of leads and I had a ton of drive. Like, I guess that's the answer to your question. What got me to convert? It was just pure, I wanted it like so bad, and it was like nothing was going to stop me. So as I've been doing your course and stuff and like implementing some of these things like drip systems and stuff that I haven't been doing, and I've gone through my database and seen I have like 1,500 leads, and I'm going back and I'm seeing like I haven't contacted these people like ever, or like I sent them one or two text messages and never followed up. And now I know like the proper way to do it. And I'm just like, man, I threw away so many deals by just not knowing it. So, I mean, to answer your question, that first year, it was pure, just I would say speed to lead, and then just like you gotta just wanna convert that lead.
Yep. Now I love it, dude. So then you talked about getting a system down. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit because I know you're using, I believe, Follow Up Boss and some other systems. What are you incorporating in your business to be able to control those, to follow up with those, to be able to do that within your business now?
Well, yeah, Follow Up Boss. I mean, we got our, the email goes out right away to the customer. We send a text message right away. And database management is something that I really had to learn. I remember one of my coaches, he was like, the best agents live in their database. And that's true. It's like, you need to know your database. You need to follow up with it. Like today I'm looking at my numbers, like I've sent out like 30 emails, I've called like 7 people, I've talked to like 8 people and I set 3 appointments, you know, and I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. I'm going to do that every single day because that's the name of the game. It's the law of averages. It's just like if you talk to 100 people, you're going to get one, or you talk to 100 people, you're going to get three, or whatever your conversion rate is. So um, it's just a matter, I think, having a good CRM and then following up with them quickly. Oh, the other thing is scripts. That's the thing I didn't have last year, and and really just now I'm starting to implement, like, have scripts that you go to, like your go to, like it. You don't like it's like you know the national anthem. It's like you just know it, and that's one thing that I was missing last year. And I have been missing, but like since I started, using the scripts and really getting a script that works for you, that you're comfortable with, that you can say with confidence, I would say yes, our follow up system with Follow Up Boss, with the texting and the emailing, and then tracking your numbers, because we track our numbers every day. I write down how many dials I made, how many emails I made, how many appointments I made, how many people I talked to, and I put that in an Excel spreadsheet. And then so at the end of the month, I'll be able to say, all right, I made this many dials, I made this many appointments, I made, this is how many sales I made. And it ebbs and flows. Like sometimes I do that for like, 14 days in a row, and then I'll fall off, for like 3 days, and I'll be like, damn it, I didn't track my numbers, because you got to track your numbers. And so then I'll get back on it. And so that's really what we're trying to do now, is just like stay with your habits. Like you say, your habits are going to determine everything. And, track your numbers, and then just do it. Do the same thing over and over and over again, and then look back and make a correction. Like look back over 30 days and look back on that week and say, all right, what did I do right here? One thing I started doing right now is I started keeping a journal. Like you were saying, a lot of this stuff is stuff like, you hear, you read when you're reading all those books. And then like when I got into your system, you're talking about writing down at the end of the day, waking up early and writing down like your perfect day, or at the end of the day, like write down, your perfect day for tomorrow, so you have a plan. I think that's super important. It's super important to reflect at the end of the day. Like, you said like 6 o'clock. Okay, what happened today? Like what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Like that comment that you have, like if I was paying a CEO to run my business and I did what I did today, would I be happy with him or her? And like right there, like that's a good question to ask because that's just like, that's a really honest question, And so I think having things like that is absolutely, it's just like you have to do it.
Yep. So, all right, dude. So looking back now, after let's say your first year, I know you've made a lot of adjustments now. I hate the word failures because those become our best learning experience that truly define us to the entrepreneurship, to the entrepreneurs and the people that we really are today. What were some of those biggest learning experiences that you experienced in your first year that were those great growth moments that you were able to make those transitions that you're doing today?
I mean, definitely like losing deals, like losing buyers, losing sellers, like all, getting a text message back and saying I went with another agent, or we already bought a house. Oh, like I hate that. Like I have a lead in my system and I didn't follow up with it properly. And all of a sudden, like, we were going through our system and this is like in 3 days, 7 people bought houses. Like those are 7 leads that contacted me, and I didn't follow up with them well enough. They bought a house. Those are 7 more deals that I could have right now. 7 more past clients, 7 more people that like I could have made a positive influence on. 7 more people I could write thank you cards in the morning, for selling their house. And like I just didn't do it. And like that really bugs me because it was like they were there, they were in my pool. All I had to do was like do it the right way. So like a lot of those experiences, Um, and then yeah, just not getting the results that you want, like, we were kind of talking about this before, like, people holding you accountable. Like, I really don't need anybody to hold me accountable because like I'm my biggest critic, like I have way higher expectations for myself than like there's like, no, your parents care about you, your family cares about you, but pretty much everybody else is like thinking about their own lives, and so like I have the highest expectations for myself, so I don't need anybody to hold me accountable. So it's just like when I see like I missed something and I know it was because of my skill, or it was no because I know it was because of I didn't do something the right way. Like that drives me so much to get better and keep practicing and just trying to get better. So if I was to say anything last year, like what failures had the biggest like impact on me, it was just like the times when like I would lose a customer, or I would like hear back like, oh, I already bought a house.
But what's epic about that, dude, is if that didn't happen, it wouldn't light that fire. It wouldn't expose. It's like Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, we see who's skinny dipping, right?
Yeah.
So like you wouldn't know that was a weakness in your business if that wasn't happening. So it exposes those. So yeah, I love that, dude. So you talked when we first started the podcast about this year kind of getting leaner with some of the expenses, making some transitions. So it's not necessarily doing a ton more units this year, maybe 10, 15 more units, but becoming a lot more profitable. What are maybe a couple of the biggest shifts that you've made to do that? Because dude, this industry, and I've fallen guilty of this as well. Like I've made it where I've made like 1.5 million in commissions, but I spent 1.2 million to make 1.5 million. So everybody thinks you're like this rock star. You're on this stage. And you're like, dude, I was making more money as a single agent.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get caught up in that,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to get caught up with the expenses and whatever. So what are a couple of the major shifts that you've made that's making this year so much more profitable and able to do more with less?
I would say the biggest thing is, well, the experience. I had no experience before. And that's the thing. I mean, 90% of agents fail the first year, 93% or whatever it is. You go, you take the class for a couple months, you got your license, and people think they're just going to come out there and slay it. Well, like, does a doctor, like, just, oh, I want to be a doctor. And you, like, 2 months later, this doctor is going to be able to perform surgery? Or a lawyer is going to go in front of like a judge and argue some case and like totally kill it, or like if you're a floor sander, you like never sanded a floor before, you're going to go on the floor and like make it look beautiful. No, you're going to butcher it, and you have to get skill, you have to study, you have to practice. And the biggest thing was that I just, had a year under my belt. Like I had so much to reflect on. I'd been in circumstances before. Oh, I've heard that objection, or oh, I've dealt with a customer like this, or I know the right questions to ask. My first year, I didn't have a, what's important to you? Why is that important to you? What's your ideal situation? What's your biggest concern? Things like that are seem basic, but it's like, unless somebody tells you, or you go out there and get it, or you're studying it, you have somebody around, you're not going to learn. So the biggest thing was just the experience. And then along with that, I would say, because we had that experience, I knew I wanted to have a system, and I was, because I'm getting coaching and I'm learning everything. I'm reading tons of books. I'm reading The Millionaire Real Estate Agent like 10 times or whatever, and all the books, and like I'm soaking it in. And some of it was probably too many books because of like my brain was going, 100 different places. But you have to develop some protocols. You have to be like, all right, step 1 to 10. You got your listing. What happens in a listing? What happens in a buyer agreement, or a buyer sale? What's going to be your follow-up process? What time are you going to get in the office every day? Like, when are you going to take lunch? Like, what time are you going to work till? And so it was just like more last year where I was just like going all over the place, doing whatever, like chicken with my head cut off, and just like pure, like my old coach used to say, think like a general, not like a soldier. If I'm going to be the boss and I'm going to run this brokerage, I got to think like a general. And generals like got to like not only do the small things, they got to think of the big picture things too. So it was like knowing that and hearing those words and everything that I was reading in my head, and then knowing like along the way, like, okay, you got to get a manual going, you got to have a process for all these things. And so now this year it's like, okay, we have that, and I got the experience. So I don't need as many zip codes. Um, the other thing too, I just thought of, this is huge, is that I narrowed down my focus. Like I only sell in Minneapolis pretty much. Like Minneapolis has 5,000 sales every year. I could like until I sell every single house in Minneapolis, like I haven't mastered my market. So, and 5,000 sales, I mean, I could sell 2, 3, 400, 500 houses a year and still only have 10% of the market just in Minneapolis. I live here. I grew up here. I was born here. So I was all over the place, like I was saying at the beginning. And it was like, how am I going to know anything about Woodbury? I'm never there. How am I going to know anything about Red Wing or Apple Valley or all these different suburbs? And I didn't want to go there either. Like I want to be in Minneapolis. Like I really like it, and it was big enough to like support however big you want to get. So I just started scaling back. I was like, dump all this other stuff. Like I don't care about these other places. Not that they're bad. Anybody who's watching this who lives there, I don't want them to think like I don't like these other places. It's just like this is the area I want to be. And that was the market I wanted to do. And that was where I was really passionate. So, and if you're passionate about something and you really want to do it, it's going to be easier for you to succeed. So, now it's just like, okay, this is where we sell, period. And until I sell every single house there, I'm not going out. Because I don't have an excuse to.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. I love it, man. So would you say that your experience with your floor standing business, your entrepreneur background before getting into real estate, is helped catapult your real estate business? I mean, have you found a lot of commonalities between the two businesses that's been able to help you achieve the success that you've achieved?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that when you run your own business, and if this is for entrepreneurs, so like everybody on here, if they're an entrepreneur, they're kind of different. Because I'm one of the only entrepreneurs. Most people in general are not entrepreneurs, I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't have many friends that are running their own business too. I've always kind of been like the guy who's had his own business. I mean, I had my own business when I was like 25 or 26, and when I was selling suits 100% commission, that's basically your own business too. So I've never really known anything else. But yeah, I mean, accountability, like you're the CEO, you're the accountant, you're everything. Like, you do a bad job on that floor, or you got, something in the polyurethane, you have to go back. There's no hiding behind, something. Like you're 100% accountable. So, you have to go there, you have to do the job. Like it's you are going to do it or you're not. Like you can't pass it on to anybody else. So I think just that level of discipline and accountability, and like knowing that, okay, if it's to be, it's up to me. If I'm going to get this done, it's up to me to do it. So that's just no different than in my real estate business. I'm just running a different business. So that kind of leadership and that mindset thinking is the same. And I imagine it's the same for any other business. I've only been in these couple businesses. And then the other thing too is like, profit and loss, revenue and expenses, adding and subtracting, it doesn't change. You got money coming in, you got money coming out. It doesn't matter if it's polyurethane, sandpaper, or, Zillow spend, Facebook, yard signs, whatever, or commission checks. It's money coming in, money going out. How are you going to allocate that? What are you going to decide to spend your money on? When are you going to cut it? Is that working? Is it not working? Do you like using it? And that doesn't change. It was just a different product. So that was huge, just because, I'm running my own business now. I was already running my own business, and that gave me a ton of confidence, so that was helpful. The other thing too that was really helpful is that when I was flipping houses, when you take out a loan for $100,000 and then you take out another construction, you wrap the construction loan in, you got like 50, $60,000 on that, and you're going to sell it for 220 or whatever. That's a lot of money. You got three of those going on. You got the payments you got to manage. You got the draws that you got to make, at the bank, the different contractors, the lien waivers, all that stuff, which I love. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur, is like, figuring all that stuff out and making those decisions. And not as much as, all of that anymore. I think at the time I really like kind of being involved in like every little thing, because I was like, I'm pretty obsessed about stuff when I get into it. But like that was a huge that gave me a ton of confidence, because like I'd have like all this money out there, all this money going out and all this money coming in, and really made me feel like, and I was doing pretty good. I wasn't always killing it on every sale, and some deals I lost money, and those are actually the best deals, because, like you said, you learn the most from they're not even failures, they're just like learning experiences. But, in business, you make money, lose money. When you lose it, it's, on a business, balance sheet, that's a loss. But, I take that experience, and, I'm old enough now, I got that wisdom to know, like, hey, when you fail or you don't get that client, you don't get that buyer, use that as like, okay, why didn't I do it? Don't get mad about it. Don't be like, oh, screw them, or, they had a bad attitude. No, just get your skills better.
Yep.
Like get your skills better. So I'd say um, the similarities were, running a balance sheet, and then having like the right mindset, and um, also like, you're creating systems any way you cut it. Like you just do it when you run a business. Like you do it naturally. I'd say those are the three biggest similarities
Yep.
between my
Awesome,
flooring
dude.
business and, that flipping stuff, and real estate
Yep.
brokerage.
Not. Yeah, love it, bro. Love it, man. So you kind of alluded to something that I want to touch on, mindset. So we're Facebook friends. I see everything that you're always posting, man, and every interaction I've had with you, you're just this energetic dude that's just full of life, full of I'm gonna go out there, get shit done, attack life, create this epic life. What do you do, dude? Because we live in this world today where the average person hears and sees 12 times the amount of negativity as we do
Yeah.
positivity, and the average person that heard a stat not too long ago was 25,000 negative things every single day that we're exposed to. What do you do, dude, to stay so pumped up, to stay so positive, to stay so driven, and just attacking each day?
Yeah, man, I know. And when I hear those stats too, it's just like, it's sad actually, and I hate that. And I wish it was more like, I wish there was more positivity in the world and in the media and everybody's life, because I think everybody would be way more happy. Um, First and foremost, whatever you put into your brain is what's going to come out, whether it's music, whether it's books, whether it's whatever you're reading on the screen, whether it's the people you're around, like, or how you think in your head about yourself, like all those things. That's whatever, all that goes in is what's going to come out. So if you want like a bad life and you want like to be miserable, well, just like look at a lot of bad stuff and read a lot of bad stuff and read negativity. Be around negative people. If you don't want to make a lot of money, like think like you're not going to make a lot of money. But if you want like a good life and you want to be around positive people, you want to accomplish your goals, you want to have energy. Then be around those type of people. Like read books that have that, that tell you, that give you confidence, that maybe teach you how to have, a good mindset. So it's really just about, what you attract, whatever it is that you want. And so I read a lot of books, a lot of, I've read tons of different business books, self-development books. Right now I'm really into Jim Rohn. Like I'm like on him like crazy right now. Like I'm downloading all his audios, I'm listening to him like first thing in the morning, like I saw that on your thing. You're like, just put the earbuds in right away. And I was just like, yes, that's what I got to do, because if you're going to get up early, you got to get out of bed. You got to like get something going right away, and boom, put those in. Um, so that's really big. And like, that's kind of been throughout like my life. I've been into different things at different times, like positive stuff like that. So I read a lot of books. I do a lot of audiobooks now, which is nice. Um, so that's big. And then, I have my down days too and my down moments too, like that's, I think the biggest thing is because I'm so self-critical on myself, like I have all these high expectations of myself, which for good or bad, I got to remember to stay positive. I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. If I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling bad, like write down 10 things you're grateful for. Like, I mean, if you're, for the most part, we're very, very lucky. If you're, if you're in a first world country, and you're not like, you know, totally destitute, and like if you have a roof over your head and you have food in your refrigerator and you can pay like your bills, and even if it's just month to month, like you're not in like a salt like Africa and like dying of like you don't even have food, like
Right.
there was a guy that I met, actually it was awesome. He was a really cool, he was a buyer actually, and he was from Africa, and he was like, and he was like a, I can't remember what he did, but he worked for the union and he had like this really good job and he was a really cool dude. And like, yeah, I took him out a few times, but he's gonna like, rent for a while because he's like just kind of getting started. And we were talking. He's like, man, Americans. he's like, you guys are losing it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, because no, like, he's like, you guys, like, I've had it wealth good for so long, and you don't know, like, you lost that hunger, like, yeah, we were talking like on the whole, I don't know, like, whatever. I mean,
Yep.
I don't believe that, like, everybody's like that. But it was really interesting because he's like, try not eating for 4 days,
Yep.
like try, like, not like, then tell me like how good your life is, like, oh, I don't have.
Shit, we're bitching after 4 hours.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like trying to, and that was like a moment right there. I was like, that, like, and he was, he's saying personal experience. Like, this guy lived like a portion, like one time in his life, he didn't eat, like he didn't have food for 3 days or 4 days because like he couldn't afford it, or he didn't have it or whatever. I was just like, I got it good. There's no reason for me to ever complain. I have a roof. I have a family that loves me. Like, I can pay my bills, and I'm doing what I love for a living. So it's like I just think, like you said, like, don't focus on the negative. Like, focus on what you have and what's great. It's the basics. It's like family. It's love. It's friends. It's like your mind. It's your body. You can control it. You can do anything you want. And focus on that, and don't focus on like all the negative stuff in the media. Don't focus on negative people. Like, just like attract positive things, like always do that, and write down your goals, like whatever you want, you can do it. And it's not going to happen overnight, but like if you do that, it's like your chances of actually getting it or getting close to it are like 50,000 times like more likely than if you do the exact opposite.
Yep. Dig it, dude. Dig it, man. So, what do you do, man, for your own personal goal setting too? Because the good becomes the worst enemy to greatness. It's so easy to get comfortable, and you've got so many people, and maybe so, maybe not. This is me just making an assumption, but I'm going to assume you got so many people that are like, "Oh my God, dude, you're just killing it. You're doing this," and I think you and I are wired the same. Where we never feel like we're killing. We always know that we're capable of so much more. But it's easy. It can be easy to get sucked into that life of good enough, comfortability. Oh, I'm doing good. Everybody's telling me I'm doing good. What do you do personally to goal set to make sure that you're not settling for good enough, that you keep going for great and continue leveling up?
Um, God, that's a good question. I would say it's hard to pinpoint. I mean, like the goal setting and like the writing down my goals and writing down what I'm grateful for, and like reading the books. Like, those are the things I do. But like, what is it that, that those are the things I do, I think, to keep me on track and to remind me and to like keep me going. That's well, I guess that's kind of the answer right there. So it's like, some, it's like, or it's like, it could be like when I found out about your stuff. I was like, dude, this guy's like killing it. He's selling like 500, 400 houses a year, and he's got like this GSD, and he's got all his scripts and everything, and he's like, he started like, you were overweight and you were like, depressed and everything, and like you made it out of it. Like that motivates me. Like I'll go to YouTube and I'll like watch Jordan's game 6 like over and over again. Like I'll watch that, like those final 2 minutes of that game, and like I'll like run out of the house after watching that. Or like, there'd be something in my life that I really like. Like I was obsessed with Star Wars when I was little, like totally obsessed with Star Wars. If I hear that like theme song, like I'm like a dog, like gone. Like I'll just like yes. So it's like that's why I liked your idea of posting those motivational posts in the morning, because it's like boom, get in that mindset. And so like I always just try to get things in my life that like make me feel good, you know, like so it's like, I think of my girlfriend, like she makes me feel good. I'm happy. I think of my parents, I think of my grandma, I think of like my family, my cousins, and like all my friends, and I think of everything that I have in my life. And then I'm just like, oh, I want, like, I have to, I can do it. It's kind of like, well, I can do that, so why not do it? Like Jim Rohn,
Yeah.
he's like, do the best you can. How many houses should you sell? However many you can. Like, how good should you get at something? Like, get as good as you can. Why not? So it's like, it's kind of like that inner drive. It's like in me where it's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is like I'm here to do, or like I'm kind of starting to figure it out, or but it's just like I don't have like a one set like goal, but I mean there's things that are starting to form, like because I think it's good to have that, but I really think it's important to just um where you keep leveling up, like you said. It's like look for inspiration, you know, like wherever it is, like find it. Like when I went to Paris, that like I came back and I started my own brokerage. I quit floor standing and I sold 84 houses. I wanted to do that, but like Paris inspired me because like it was just beautiful there, and I was like I'm into architecture and stuff, and I was like, man, like these guys made this. Like you look at like these paintings and like these buildings, and like you go to the Palace of Versailles, and you're just like, holy smokes, like this is crazy. And it's like I could, well, they did that. I could do like sell 50 houses, or I could sell 50 million, or like dude, they like built the Palace of Versailles. You're just like, okay, selling like 100 houses is not that big of a deal if like people have gone to the moon, and all
Yeah.
this stuff
You're
they.
like Elon Musk created SpaceX. I can create a really.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of just am always had that belief that like I really honestly believe that anybody can, like if you put your mind to it, you can do it, because we've proven that throughout human history.
Yep. Nah, I love it, man. I love it. So, couple last little things, questions, and things I want to hit on with you. But before we get into those, how do our listener base reach out to you? How do people learn more about you? Reach out to you. Maybe we have a listener that's a realtor in your area that just is attracted to your energy, dude. Wants to be a part of what you got going on there. Maybe somebody has a general question, whatever it may be. How can our listener base get in touch with you, dude?
Yeah, I would go to my Facebook page, Johansson Realty. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. Just hit me up on there, or you can email me at Arne at JR Home Sales. That's sales with an S on the end. .com. Arne at jrhomesales .com. And those are probably the two easiest ways to get in contact with me. I would get my phone number out, but I learned about that last time. Like I was on a thing where,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you
I
get
mean,
blowed
my
up.
phone ring. You know it. You're a realtor. Our phone rings like a million times a day. Not that I don't want to talk to people. It's just like if I have a business call, like if my phone's coming in, I really hope that's a lead because I want to set the appointment. Um, but I've learned like I want to give back, and like that's kind of one thing I'm learning. And like we kind of talked about that before. Like if you are able to solve your problems, then like the world opens up to you. And like if I can inspire somebody, or I can help somebody through a tough time, or if something I say on this webinar like inspires somebody to do that or call me or reach out to me, like definitely contact me. Like definitely ask me your questions. Like shoot me an email. I'll get back to you. And I think that's probably like, one thing that I do like about these webinars and stuff like that is it's like, I might be able, like, I saw a webinar, like you inspired me, and it's like that's making me better. If I can do that for somebody else, like, we're in a better world.
Yep, couldn't agree more, man. Love it, love it, love it. So, all right, dude. So, a couple last questions here, and I know you got an listing appointment that you got to go dominate. So, I know we got to get wrapping it up here, but okay. So, dude, let's say something happened and you lost all your money. Like you just lost everything, right? I mean, your health's good, girlfriend's good, family's good, all that's good. But you're financially wiped out. Maybe you've got a couple $100 left to your name, but you've retained everything that you've learned through all your experience of being an entrepreneur, your last 20 months of being in real estate. You retained everything. You got this PhD now up in your head. What are the first few things that you'd go out there and immediately do to start rebuilding right out of the gate if you were in that position?
Without any money or
Yeah,
$200.
very, very little, man. Yep.
Um,
I'll give you $500. Let's say $500. You call Josh up. I give you a loan. You got $500.
okay. Man, I think it's like kind of goes back to the whole sales thing, and we've talked about this. It's like the law of averages. You got to let in. You've said it. Most people don't know who you are. You got to let people. It's like what you say. You got to like have people like you, know you, trust you, know what you do for a living, follow up with them frequently enough, and your business will grow. Dude, wherever, like, if you came up with that, or whoever said that, that is like the key to business. So I would just go back out there. I would do real estate again because this is like my passion. And I would just go out there and like, I would go on social for sure because that's like free. And I would just let everybody know, like, I would just get my skill level. I would like go to the library, get books, go on the internet, like get scripts. And I would just like go out there and like knock on doors or, just let people know what you do. And then like, while you're doing that, work on your skill. Because I think one thing that obviously in real estate, but I think in general, like business in general, like, the idea and the execution, and you talk about that, like you have to be able to execute. That's the only thing that matters. Like you can have, like a lot of people want to make a ton of money or they want to have a successful business, but are you willing to go out there and do what it takes to do that? And generally what I think that what people lack is that they lack the just I don't know the time and focus to master your craft, to do it every day, to consciously make an effort to get better. You have to do that every single day, and then you have to let people know about what you're doing, because you can get really really good, but if nobody knows about you, you're not going to be able to make a living. And you can like, and I learned that last year because I was out all over the place. I was on Zillow and everything like that, but it's like you said, if you can't convert, you can't convert, man, period. You could have 1,000 leads of the best leads in the whole world, and like they're like, sign me up, and if you can't convert, it doesn't matter. So, and conversion comes from your skill. And so just like work on your skill. I would just like work on my skill, and then I would like talk to as many people I can and let them know what I do for a living and get them to know me, trust me, love me, whatever, and follow up with them frequently, and my business would grow.
Yeah, it's the name of the game, baby. Love it, dude. Love it. It's cool though, man, because it shows that you're paying attention to the scripts, dude. So I dig it, man. All right, dude. So GSD podcast. I mean, the whole point of this podcast, and I started this podcast just kind of like you alluded to a little bit ago of look, we want to be able to go out there and help others. Help others as much as we possibly can, but we also get so busy where it's like, hey, we can't be on a phone call with every real estate agent that needs some help and our entrepreneurs that need some help, and we really created this podcast to be able to give back on a higher level, to go out there and really truly encourage entrepreneurs and people out there, not just entrepreneurs, but just people to go out there and live this epic, amazing life. At the end of the day, life is so brief. And that's why I love having just rock stars like you that are dominating your space, that are just, ball of energy, all this inspiration. What would you, just kind of as some parting words of maybe wisdom, motivation, inspiration, and what are some maybe parting words of inspiration that you would want to leave our listeners with, to get them, to encourage them to go out there and create this epic life for themselves, just like you're doing for yourself?
Well, I would say write down what you want in your life. Like, what do you want in your life? You have a life. You can get what you want. Like, write down what you want in your personal life. Write down what you want in your business life. Write down what you like, your health goals. Whatever it is that you want in your life, write it down. And like, it's not going to happen just in one day. Oh, you're going to write it down now. Oh, the world, I know everything and I know my path. Like, write it down and figure it out and think about it. Like, what do you love to do? Like, what gets you out of bed? Like, what do you like? What do you want to learn about? Like, whatever age you are, whether you're like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you're not going to live forever, you know? And like, every day that goes by, you're not getting that day back, and eventually this is it. But you have this opportunity to do whatever you want. So write it down and like, figure out what you need to do to get it. Like, everybody's smart enough to figure out what they need to do to get it. If you don't know how, you got to find somebody. If you can't find somebody, you can get a book, because pretty much like, everybody has done what you want to do in some way, shape, or form. Even like the guy who's trying to go out into outer space, like, other people have been to outer space, like, find out the people who've done it and like, model them, like, I'm studying you. Like, study me. You want to go out, sell 84 houses? Like, call me up. Be like, Arne, how did you do that? Or get a book on it. But it's like, the most important thing is to write it down and like, figure out what you want, and just never lose that. And like, always like, just be writing it down and like, thinking about it and like, figuring it out what you want. And then you might change your mind. It could, like, try it. Just try going out and doing it. And don't give up. Like, don't give up after 2 weeks. Don't give up after 2 months. Like, don't give up after 6 months. Don't give up after a year. Like, don't give up after 2 years. And that was like the hard thing for me, because like, I had this great business. I was like working 5-6 hours a day. I was just like, yeah, I don't need to dress up. I don't need to talk to anybody. I was just like, my life's easy. I got this business. Like, people call me all the time. I didn't need to advertise or do anything. I just had business coming in. And then all of a sudden I worked like 70, 80 hours a week, and I never had a day off. And I was just like, why am I doing this? I was like, you have a great life already. Like, is this really what you wanted? And like, I was just like, dude, I'd watch people on, or, I'd see it, or I'd think, and be like, you want to master this? You're not going to master this in a year. You're not going to master this in 2 years. You're not going to master this in 5 years. Like, this is going to take time. If this is your career, if this is what you want, or whatever, if it's like your marriage, your relationship, or your health, or, whatever it is, it's not going to happen overnight. And just like, spend time on it and do it every day. And, you do something over and over and over again, you're going to get good at it. And that's it, man. Follow that plan. Write it down, focus on it every day, and then go out there and do it, and never give up.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Very, very powerful, awesome, amazing words, brother. And to our listener base out there, I know I end every single podcast with this, but information without implementation is delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and executing on it that creates power in your world. So, you heard from a dude that's out there doing some massive, massive things that's, created in such a small time. That was something that most agents, probably 99.9% of agents, aren't able to create in a decade. So go out there and implement some of these action steps that Arne shared with you. Implement in your business, implement in your life. Go out there and create that epic life that you want and you deserve. Keep kicking ass, keep dominating. Arne, dude, this has been an awesome, awesome time, man. You're one cool cat, man. I mean, I'm really honored to know you, have you as a friend, having the program, and get to know you further. I'm really excited to watch you just continue crushing it, man. It's awesome watching, and I can't wait to see what the future's like, brother.
Well, thank you for everything. Thank you. I'm glad, like, I saw your Facebook ad, and I'm glad I did it. And like, thank you for putting out all the content and like the skills and everything that you're doing, because like it's been a huge help. So, and thank you for having me on this program. And anything I can do to help anybody, I'm there for. And yeah, man, I really appreciate it too. So thank you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, you guys, go out there, dominate. Thanks for listening. Keep kicking ass, and we'll be talking to you soon.